Hey everybody, welcome back to Pop Culture Philosophers. Just want to tell you real quick, if you like and share this podcast, you'll be entered to win an 80s horror Blu-ray. Ooh, what movie will it be? We don't know, but it'll be something good or something terrible. So terrible that it's good. So we've been talking about 80s horror movie. We talked about the 80s in general and how the culture of the 80s affected the horror movies of the 80s. And how there were so many good horror movies in the 80s. And it's hard to narrow it down to a top 5. But the 80s has some of the worst horror movies, period. Okay? In fact, I would say there are so many bad movies, horror movies of the 80s. There's so many of them, so many I haven't seen, and so many that, quite frankly, I don't want to see. But basically, I think a lot of the sequels are some of the worst. A lot of the sequels are just pretty bad. In particular, to me, I hate the movie, and a lot of horror connoisseurs, they would call themselves, would argue with me. Basket Case. I think Basket Case is a just shitty, trashy-ass movie. I just think it's stupid and terrible. But personally, the movie that hurt me the worst was Swamp Thing. Wes Craven's Swamp Thing, being a terrible movie, really let me down.
Yeah.
James, what are some of your worst, the worst 80s horror movies?
Yeah, pretty much any movie that was, number 4 in the trilogy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They were, like you were saying earlier, they just got so watered down by that point. Like, you're just like, what is this? Why did I watch it?
Absolutely. So basically any number 4. So Final Chapter, Dream Master. Halloween, though, Return of Michael Myers is probably one of the better of that film series. Justin, speaking of better in the series. Justin.
Ooh.
What are some of your least favorite horror movies of the 80s?
I'm going to be completely real with you here. I like to watch shitty horror movies. So it's really self-defeating for me to say which movies are and aren't the worst. And also, me being an actor. It's hard for me to take something like a piece of art that people got together and created and say that's terrible.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's very kind of you to say, but be honest.
I'm not saying that it's bad. There's
Yeah.
lots of sequels, like you were saying. There's some that are bad.
Yeah, be real with this though. What sucks?
I honestly can't think of anything specifically from the 80s.
Swamp Thing sucks. Basket Case
I never
sucks.
saw either of those.
That's the reason. They suck.
Yeah, I think a lot of these movies
I
you
mean,
haven't seen because there's a lot of terrible 80s films.
All right, so you really can't pick one a movie to be like that's the worst 80s horror movie I've ever seen. You really don't have anything for me.
I really don't.
Okay. All right, that's very nice. John, what are some of your least favorite 80s horror movies?
There's a lot of terrible ones. I would definitely say, being a big Nightmare on Elm Street fan, Dream Child was a big disappointment. But one that comes to mind that's not a Nightmare film, again, there's tons. I think you have to go through the list because there's a lot of straight to video or just shitty sequels. Because you're right, sometimes the film companies they take their audience for granted. But one that comes to mind that I remember watching as a child and being confused by and going watch it. I mean, the story itself isn't confusing, but it's just a terrible movie. Chopping Mall. And these people decide they're going to stay the night at this mall so they can hang out and have fun. They're not robbing the place. And there's robots that the mall has that's supposed to guard the mall, and the robots go crazy and start killing everybody. Yeah, and they didn't have a lot.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, now that I'm like, that's a terrible movie, but now I might enjoy the B movie quality of it. But
Maybe
Chopping Mall.
a remake of that would be good.
I heard that.
Maybe that's what the studios
Don't
say.
give
That's
them
what I'm
ideas.
saying. In
Don't
the
give them
80s, it was
ideas.
so much easier to take a really weird idea and make a movie with it. And if it's bad, then whatever. It's a shitty horror movie. And then people like me, 20 years later, will be like, yeah, that was fun to watch.
Wasn't Johnny Five? That's the 80s, right? What's his...
Short Circuit.
Yeah, that's the 80s. These people didn't have the same budget that Johnny Five had for the robots. But it's a mediocre
That
film.
makes it funnier though when you get the stick holding up the robot from off the side of the camera.
You know, as bad as some of these 80s horror movies were, at least a lot of the stories were original ideas. Right?
Yeah,
Aside from the
Chopping Mall was very original. I give him that.
Yeah, right?
Was there actual chopping?
I don't know if there's anybody gets chopped up at all.
That would be very.
That's very
much a
misleading.
Letdown.
Yeah.
These robots have like big axe.
Well,
Things or
murdering
anything?
doesn't rhyme with shopping, so.
Well, originally it had a different title, something with robots, and then last minute they changed it to Chopping Mall since it's in a mall. But of course it's the 80s, so
I
what?
mean,
The 80s, the mall is a big
Killing
deal.
spree.
I'll tell you
was
this.
already.
I wish I came up with the idea for a film